Good evening and welcome. It is time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I am here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community. Yes, it is. Views expressed are those of the speakers and are not intended to represent WRFU, UCIMC, Urbana Socialist Forum, or, as we like to say on the televised version of the show, UPTV. These views are our own, and by our, in this instance, I mean it in the royal we sense. I mean myself, or something. We are speaking to you right now from the beautiful downtown Urbana WRFU studios, the palatial WRFU studios. And we're happy to be here. And we're happy that you're here. And we're just happy. Or, I don't know if we're actually happy. Anyway, be that as it may. Excuse me. Yeah. So, immigration, right? That's the topic of the show, the theme. That's the theme of the show. The topic of the show tonight is, unfortunately, once again, DACA. DACA, you say? DACA again? Well, that's because there's some new information. So, you probably remember a while back Trump saying, "Oh, I love the Dreamers. You know, I have a great respect for these people. I don't want anything bad to happen to them." And then somehow sort of miraculously turning this over to the tender mercies of Jeff Sessions, who immediately and gleefully canceled the DACA program. And then, so it's been bouncing back and forth. So first, for a long time, Trump was like, "Oh, you know, I like the Dreamers. They're okay. They don't have to worry. I'll take care of them," kind of stuff. So he was saying this stuff, and you were thinking, well, maybe, you know, it's okay. Then he turns it over to Sessions. Sessions cancels everything. And you go, "Oh, no, it's the end of the world." And then Trump, shortly thereafter, meets with Democrats and comes up with a deal, a DACA deal. And you think, oh, well, that's not bad. Maybe he really does mean it, you know, like the ever hopeful, ever optimistic person that you are, I know, and that I am sometimes. You're thinking, oh, maybe he really does mean it. And then, oh, once again, he proves that no, he does not, in fact, mean it at all. So this from the wonderful New York Times, entitled, "White House Makes Hardline Demands for Any Dreamers Deal." Oh. So I'll just read this to you quickly. The White House on Sunday delivered to Congress a long list of hardline immigration measures that President Trump is demanding in exchange for any deal to protect the young, undocumented immigrants known as Dreamers, imperiling a fledgling bipartisan push to reach a legislative solution. Before agreeing to provide legal status for 800,000 young immigrants brought here illegally as children, Mr. Trump will insist on the construction of a wall across the southern border. Tell me you didn't know that was coming. The hiring of 10,000 immigration agents, tougher laws for those seeking asylum, and denial of federal grants to sanctuary cities, officials said. The White House is also demanding, as if that wasn't enough, is also demanding the use of E-Verify program by companies to keep illegal immigrants from getting jobs, an end to people bringing their extended family into the United States, and a hardening of the border against thousands of children fleeing violence in Central America. Such a move would shut down loopholes that encourage parents from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras to send their children illegally into the United States, where many of them melt into American communities and become undocumented immigrants. Quote, "Now is the time for Congress to adopt these immigration priorities," says Mark Short, the president's legislative director, during a conference call on Sunday night. Otherwise, he added, illegal immigration will likely increase. While it is unclear whether Mr. Trump views the demands as absolute requirements or the beginning of a negotiation, the proposals, taken together, amount to a Christmas in October wish list for immigration hardliners inside the White House. Immigration activists have long opposed many of these proposals as draconian or even racist. The demands were developed by a half-dozen agencies and departments, officials said. But among the officials behind the demands are Stephen Miller, our friend, the president's top policy advisor, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, there he is again, both of whom have long advocated extremely aggressive efforts to prevent illegal entry into the country and crack down on undocumented immigrants already here. The demands represented a concerted effort to broaden the expected congressional debate about the Dreamers to one about overhauling the entire American immigration system on terms that hardline conservatives have been pursuing for decades. In a letter to lawmakers, Mr. Trump said his demands would address dangerous loopholes, outdated laws, and easily exploited vulnerabilities in the immigration system, asserting that they were reforms that must be included in any deal to address the Dreamers. Democratic leaders in Congress reacted with alarm, saying the demands threatened to undermine the president's own statements in which he had pledged to work across the aisle to protect the Dreamers through legislation. Quote, the administration can't be serious about compromise or helping the Dreamers if they begin with a list that is anathema to the Dreamers, to the immigrant community, and to the vast majority of Americans. Senator Chuck Schumer of New York and Representative Nancy Pelosi of California, the Democratic leaders in the Senate and House, said in a joint statement. Mr. Schumer and Ms. Pelosi, who declared after a White House dinner last month that they had reached a deal with Mr. Trump to protect Dreamers, denounced the president's demands as failing to represent any attempt at compromise. They called it little more than a thinly veiled effort to scuttle negotiations even before they begin in earnest. If the president was serious about protecting the Dreamers, his staff has not made a good faith effort to do so, they added. Last month, the president abruptly ended an Obama-era policy called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, in which former President Barack Obama had used his executive authority to protect about 800,000 of the young immigrants from the threat of deportation and provide them with work permits. Even as Mr. Trump kept his campaign promise to halt what he had described as one of the most unconstitutional actions ever undertaken by a president, which we might want to add, until I took office. That was an editorial aside. He quickly added that he would work with Democrats in Congress to replace the executive policy with legislation, giving them 6 months to do so. But a White House official said on Sunday that Mr. Trump was not open to a deal that would eventually allow the Dreamers to become United States citizens. Quote, the president's position has been that he's called on Congress to come up with a permanent solution and a fix to this process, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, said last week. Immigration advocates will also likely urge Democratic leaders to refuse a deal that includes the president's proposals. But immigration and human rights advocates are also under pressure to do something for the Dreamers, thousands of whom will begin, by March, losing permission to work and protection from deportation if a deal is not reached. Privately, many advocates have acknowledged that a negotiated deal with the Republican president is likely to include some immigration changes. Administration officials responsible for securing the border and enforcing the nation's immigration laws told reporters on Sunday night that the changes requested by the president were essential to protecting American workers from unfair competition and deterring what they described as a never-ending flow of illegal immigrants into the country. On the president's wish list is a long-sought Republican goal of stopping American residents from sponsoring the arrival of extended family members. His demand would limit residents to bringing only spouses and children. Also central to the effort, officials said, are legal changes that would strip away the rights of illegal immigrants to claim asylum or make another case to stay in the United States, allowing federal officials to more quickly deport them. Quote, we cannot have true border security if we don't change federal laws to ensure that people who are apprehended are removed, said Ron Vitiello, the acting Deputy Commissioner for Customs and Border Protection. Thomas D. Homan, the acting Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, said a vast increase in the number of agents and other federal resources would allow for a crackdown on immigration violators that has been difficult in the past. Another key part of that crackdown would be on tens of thousands of children who have surged across the border with Mexico during the past several years, many of them seeking to escape gang-related violence in Central American countries. This year, about 38,500 children have been apprehended at the border without their parents. Administration officials say the children, many of whom are sent to live with a cousin, aunt, uncle, or sibling in the United States, must be turned back or quickly deported once they arrive. Under current law, many of them remain in the United States for years during legal proceedings to evaluate their asylum or refugee claims. If the children are not deported quickly, officials say many will never leave, eventually becoming a new population of sympathetic young immigrants who seek amnesty. That could create lasting cycles in which illegal immigrants demand to be given legal status, the officials say. The president's demands include new rules that say children are not considered unaccompanied at the border if they have a parent or guardian in the United States. They also propose treating children from Central America the same way they do children from Mexico, who can be repatriated more quickly with fewer rights to hearings. Mr. Trump is also calling for a surge in resources to pay for 370 additional immigration judges, 1,000 government lawyers, and more detention space so that children arriving at the border can be held, processed, and quickly returned if they do not qualify to stay longer. Critics say the focus on deporting unaccompanied children is heartless and impractical. They say many were sent by their parents on long, dangerous treks in the hopes of avoiding poverty, hunger, abuse, or death by gangs in their home countries. Advocates acknowledge that more resources are necessary to speed up those hearings, but they argue that White House efforts to demand quick decisions are likely to merely result in many children being sent back to places where they are raped, beaten, or killed. Sending the children back with just a cursory hearing is a recipe for disaster in terms of returning people to danger, said Wendy Young, the president of Kids in Need of Defense, a group that aids young refugees. So many points that could be mentioned here. So first of all, it goes without saying this is another example of the untrustworthiness of the chief executive in terms of anybody who thinks they might be able to strike a deal with him or work something out. Don't even bother. He cannot be depended on to follow anything he says or keep his word. So that's one thing. And we already knew that about him, but this is just another example of that. The basic point here, of course, is that DACA recipients are in deep trouble. If this is the White House's, or the administration, let's extend this beyond the White House, if this is their opening gambit in negotiations, there's really almost nothing here that I've read so far that is even remotely acceptable. I mean, if you wanted to tack on E-Verify, or if you wanted to tack on more immigration agents, maybe that would be something. Even though it is a waste of money, putting more money into the current system is basically sort of a payoff to special interests. It doesn't really help anything, and it doesn't hurt that much. It just it's just throwing money away. And so good stewards of our tax dollars would not allow this to happen. But if that were the cost of the deal, like, okay, you want to dump a bunch of money into your cronies and your supporters who run these border enforcement and high-tech military-style equipment businesses. Okay, if that's the cost of protecting the dreamers, then all right, you're going to do it anyway, one way or the other. This is just, speeds it along. This provides some, bipartisan cover for that. That's the kind of deal that you can make in Washington, that you have to hold your nose to do it, but the greater good is, let's protect these guys. They're being held hostage against this cynical waste of taxpayer money to enrich already rich people. If that's the cost, so be it. But the rest of this stuff is not, there's nothing you can do with it. The construction of the wall is ludicrous. It's cost billions of dollars. It's a complete waste of time. It achieves nothing except a campaign promise, and it satisfies the sort of the isolationist lusts of xenophobes in this country, and it produces nothing. So even there, even if that was the one thing, like, okay, you can protect them, but we have to build the wall, it's the same kind of thing that I was saying before. It's a waste of money. It's throwing it away on some stupid gesture, but it doesn't cause as much harm as letting these 800,000 young people just go off the books and slip back into the shadows. Although, admittedly, there are environmental problems with the wall. There are all sorts of problems with the wall. I mean, it is a horrible thing. It shouldn't happen. But even there, I could say, all right, yeah. But that, plus the hiring of 10,000 agents, plus tougher laws for those seeking asylum. These people seeking asylum are coming here seeking asylum. They're running away from something dangerous. This is supposed to be a haven for the world. And we're slamming the door in their face saying, oh no, I don't care if you're being chased by wolves. Screw you. We don't want you here because we don't like your kind. Is basically all that says. Denial of federal grants to sanctuary cities. That's just mean-spirited garbage coming, once again, that's like the wall. It is another gesture on the part of the administration. It's I'm proving that I'm tougher than you are, or I can get my way, or I can be meaner and tougher than anybody about anything. It doesn't achieve anything of value. It is unnecessarily divisive and wasteful, and it's just authoritarian, just like the wall is. So there's those things. E-Verify programs, there are lots of problems with E-Verify programs. We've talked about this in the past. I don't want to go into all of it now, but it is a very problematic thing. But there again, it's just like, it's another gesture. Most of this, if you look at this list, at least what we know of it here, they're all gestures. They're not actual usable things that accomplish anything. They're just posturing. It's like, I'm flexing my muscles here. I'm flexing my muscles there. I'm spitting on this person over here, and I'm stepping on that person over there. That's all it is. It doesn't accomplish anything. So then the question arises, okay, do you allow someone to make gestures sort of that are pointless and mean-spirited in exchange for something good? I would say it's debatable. One gesture, yeah, we'll give you one gesture. You make some big gesture, build a wall, or deny sanctuary cities federal grants or something. Do one hurtful thing that wastes a lot of money and hurts a bunch of people in return for helping these people over here. Okay, but not more than one. I mean, more than one is just unacceptable. All of these are unacceptable, but you know, at some point, some deal making has to be made. Where do you make that deal? I'm not sure. An end to people bringing extended family into the United States, that's just absurd. It's ridiculous. Hardening of the border against thousands of children fleeing violence, that's beyond the pale. That right there is like, okay, do we exchange the lives of these people that are already here in exchange for the lives of people that have to come here because they have nowhere else to go? I can't think of anybody that I know who has participated in the DACA program who would say they were willing to do that. The unaccompanied minors have gone through incredible difficulties to get here. You don't do that unless you really, really need to be here, unless you really, really need to get away from where you're at. They've suffered all sorts of things. They really, really suffer to get here. And they're good kids. All of the ones that I've seen or even heard about are really good kids. They're not, this is not drug dealers coming over here. This is not some fantasy right-wing, invasion by gang members who are coming here to cause problems. These are people running away from that stuff. People who could be your allies against that stuff. And you're slamming the door in their face and saying, no, we don't care why you're here. We just want to send you back as quickly as possible. That, I could almost go for everything else on this list except that one. And it would, I wouldn't say it'd be worth it, but it's like, I mean, where do you start? The DACA people are, by and large, really great people. And more than that, beyond that, they're also U.S. citizens in everything but one tiny detail. They grew up here. This is their country. They are excited about participating in the opportunities here. They work hard. I mean, this is 800,000 basically fellow citizens that are being held hostage by xenophobes, basically, in exchange for their fantasy attack on the rest of the world. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it is beyond. I won't say it's beyond my comprehension. I can comprehend a lot of things, but it's beyond my ability to describe adequately. If you really, really hate outsiders, people who are different, people who look different than you, who speak differently than you do, who have different religions, I mean, or that you imagine are that way. Because really, of all the vast number of people who are here in this country, who have come here as immigrants, a lot of them don't look that different from the people that are already here. And depending on how you define that, none of them look any different from the people that are already here. So it's only a certain group that thinks they look different. It's only a certain group that thinks they speak differently or have a different religion or different. So we need to define our terms here, because if you look at America, if you have traveled across America, as I have, you have seen the wide array of people who call this country home. None of the immigrants that we're talking about here are in any marked way different from people that you can find here. If you're talking about South Americans, Central Americans, Mexicans, well, we have a lot of people from those countries who are here, who are Americans, who live here. a lot of that same ethnic group was already here when this country was first being created as a country. They are more original Americans than, anybody else except indigenous Americans, and many of them have indigenous backgrounds anyway. So they basically have a greater claim to be here than the people who are now trying to slam the door in their face. So it's only a small-ish group who really hates what they perceive as difference. And by difference, they describe difference to them, not difference to Americans, not difference to U.S. citizens, but difference to them, their own particular group. And they have managed to convince others who are more like them than not that there is a problem with these newcomers coming here, or that they wouldn't mind except it's the way they get here. If they would only follow the rules, it would be okay. They've come up with a million different excuses, but most of those excuses don't really hold up. There is something to be said for having borders, creating borders, having some sort of control over who comes in to your country. There's something to be said for that. But the extent of that is very debatable. Like, just how much of that should you try to control? In some places of the world, I can see why there are problems with refugees and immigrants coming there, because it's a small place. So imagine a country the size of Illinois and people streaming in, by the tens of thousands all at once. Yeah, you might be going, whoa, wait, slow down. We're not that big a place. We don't have that many resources. We don't have that much to go around, to make space for you. But the U.S. does not have that problem. We're not Greece. We're not Switzerland. We're not the UK. We are not this small little place where someone can make a reasonable argument that you have to be careful how many people you allow to come live there, because at some point there'll be so many people your country will actually sink into the ocean, or something like that. I mean, this place has enormous expanses of wide open spaces. We have cities that are dying all over the country because people are moving away from them. There's not enough opportunity there, so they're moving out. If every small town that's kind of slowly going away because its population is diminishing were to open their doors and say, immigrants welcome here, come on in, help us make this a thriving, vibrant town again, we could easily accommodate all the immigrants that wanted to come here for years and years and years to come. So we don't have those problems that they do in Europe. We can't compare our situation to them and say it is similar, or that we have a similar kind of dynamic at work here. We do not. Our anti-immigrant sentiment is solely, I will say it, I will say it. It is solely based on racism or bigotry or xenophobia or whatever you want to call it. It's based on fear and loathing of the other. There is not a good economic argument that can be made. In fact, there are many great economic arguments for welcoming more